Okay, good. So in the beginning, okay, and Adam and Chava were in the garden, and Hashem said, "Don't eat from that tree." What is a tree in essence? A tree in the Torah always represents consciousness. It always represents a mindset. Whenever the Torah speaks about a tree, it speaks about a certain level of consciousness. The tree of life represents the tree that makes you feel connected to Hashem, connected to the truth, connected to yourself, connected to reality. The tree of Da'at, the Tovara, the tree of knowledge of good and its opposite, the seemingly bad, right? So this is the tree that Hashem said not to eat from. Don't eat from that tree. Because on the day that you eat from it, you're going to die. However, Adam didn't die after they ate from it, and neither did Chava. They actually lived a remarkably long time. But Hashem doesn't lie. Everything Hashem says happens. So what does that even mean? But if we understand now that these trees are two different consciousnesses, if that's a real word. One is the consciousness of unity. That's the tree of life. And the tree of Da'at, Tovara, the knowledge of good and bad. Why is it called Da'at? Because Da'at doesn't just mean knowledge. Da'at, like the Balatanya says, like Rabbi Nachman says, like all of Kabbalah and Chassidut explained, Da'at is a knowledge which unites and attaches and causes everything to become one. That's the reason why that tree is called Da'at Tovara, the knowledge of good and bad. Because it doesn't actually mean just the knowledge of both, but that there's a unity of both. Meaning that if you eat from that tree, you're not going to know the difference now between good and bad because they have been united. We see this clearly because the first time that the word Da'at comes up in the Torah, it's when it says that Adam yada et Chava, that Adam knew Chava. What does that mean, he knew Chava? Of course he knew Chava. She was there. The answer is he had relations with her. So we see the first time that the word Da'at, knowledge, comes up in the Torah, it is about the most intimate union that is in this physical and spiritual world, which is intimacy, sexual intimacy. That is the unity of opposites, man and woman. So this tree, when Hashem said not to eat from it, because saying on the day that you eat from it, both the real good and then what looks like the good but is not good is all going to look the same. And the day that you eat from it, you're going to die, meaning your consciousness is going to die. Because you are your consciousness. You have a person, chas v'shalom, he's laying down on a hospital bed. He's in a coma. He's alive. But is he? Is he the person you know? Is he the person that you connect to? Is he alive? Rav Nachman teaches a person's life is their consciousness. So on the day that you eat from that tree, you're going to die, meaning your ability to understand and to experience reality is going to go into exile. You won't be able to do that. What's the drawback? What's so bad about that? Okay, so my consciousness goes into exile. My mind goes into exile. That's called death. So what happens when you don't perceive reality truthfully? You experience sadness. You experience anger. You experience confusion. You experience despair. Chassidut explains that all of these are code words for death. That when Hashem told Adam and Chava, don't eat from that tree because on the day you eat from it, you're going to die. So how many of us every day feel like we're dying? Because we are. Our mind is going into exile. And ever since then, every single one of us has one choice in life. You only have one choice. Yes, we all have free will. But free will is not expansive. It's only in one area. Do you eat from the tree of life, or do you eat from the tree that makes it look like life is death and death is life? That's your only choice. What is the Eitz HaChaim? It's the Torah. What is the Eitz HaDa'at Tov V'Ra? Secular wisdom. Now, despite the fact that many people, especially Jewish people, love to cling to their political party. I'm liberal, I'm Democrat, and it's the truth. Or maybe the more religious right wing will say, I'm religious, I'm Jewish, and it is right wing is the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. Neither of those is the truth. You know why? Because it's not Torah. So it's not true. Nothing against either parties. They both have beautiful elements to it. But as a matter of fact, if something is not rooted completely and entirely in its essence in the source of reality, which is Hashem's Torah, which is the blueprint for creation, which existed thousands of years before the world came into existence, and everything that you experience in your life is called Torah. So it's not true, or it's not completely true. And as long as it's not completely true, it's destructive. Psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Rabbi Nachman says that the whole cause of suffering in this world is one reason. There's only one reason that people suffer. If not for this one reason, you would never suffer. What's the reason? He says da'at. A lack of da'at. A lack of God consciousness. A lack of ability to recognize that everything is Hashem. That is what causes all psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical suffering in the world. That's a crazy thought. That all suffering in the world comes from eating from the wrong tree. Now Hashem respects our free will. He gave it to us because he loves the fact that we have a choice. And he revels in and he enjoys so much when we choose correctly, because then we feel happy, because then we feel connected, because then we know Hashem. But when we don't, we automatically feel despair, confusion. Why didn't the Nachash, the snake in that first story, who we also understands was not a physical snake like we know it, but he also was a consciousness. What was he the consciousness of? He is trying to distract you from reality. How does he do that? He compels you to eat from the wrong tree. To eat from the tree of secular wisdom. Secular wisdom is any type of wisdom that's not rooted in truth. Doesn't mean that there's not truth in those wisdoms. There's always an element of truth in everything, otherwise it can't exist. But as long as it's not completely true, that is going to manifest itself in the most destructive ways in all of our lives. When you see a person that he's going through psychological suffering, let's say, for instance, me, a lifelong sufferer of depression, where is depression coming from? So yes, they're going to say it is genetic. And they are going to say it is taught. They're going to say many things. But you know why a person feels depressed? Only because he experiences despair. Because he lost hope. Who's a person who loses hope? It's not a bad person. Not at all. It could be the greatest person in the world. A person who loses hope is a one who doesn't have da'at. What does that mean? He doesn't know everything that happens comes from Hashem. Because if he did, he would never despair. Because the same source of good in all of our lives is the same source as seemingly bad. And if we want to believe that Hashem is good, like the Torah says, that he's Tovu Meitziv, the one who's good and who does good, that there's nothing that comes from him that's not good. Whether we consciously experience that or not, you would never become hopeless. Why do we experience despair? Because we don't believe that. Because we don't know that. And if we're going to say we do know that, but we don't know that. Sorry, you can't see. We don't know that. The goal of the Torah is not that knowledge should remain in your mind. It's that it should then permeate your heart. The Torah begins with the letter Bet and it ends with the word Lamed. What does it spell? Lev, the heart. The whole purpose of this world is to fix our hearts. How do we do that? We infuse them with Da'at, with God consciousness. And anyone who believes in Hashem, and they do the mitzvot, and they learn Torah, and they do all of these things, but when all of these difficulties come, they react and respond like anybody else. And they feel the same type of suffering, the same type of emotional pain, the same type of anguish and confusion. What's the reason? Because what's in their mind has not penetrated their hearts. Rav Nachman says, good question, how does he penetrate our heart? We'll talk about it at the end. Rav Natan says, actually Rav Nachman says, I'll tell you Rav Natan says that. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that there is many lies, but there's only one truth. Now when he said that, that sounds like, okay, great, everybody says there's one truth, right? The Christians say they have the truth, and the Muslims say they have the truth, and the secular Western civilization say they have the truth, and scientists say they have the truth. Okay, so everybody says they have the truth. What makes it any different? Rav Nachman was not just saying that the truth is one, meaning there's only one truth. He's saying that the truth is echad, that everything is one. That's the truth. The lies are many means that when you associate, when you attribute things to different sources, sometimes it's Hashem, sometimes it's my mom, sometimes it's my husband, sometimes it's my kids, sometimes it's me. These are all called lies. Why? Because it's all Hashem. Ein od milvado is not just a nice bumper sticker to put on your car, it's the truth. There's nothing else besides Hashem. When you eat from the tree of life, meaning the Torah, you experience that consciously in your life. But if and when you remove yourself from that place and you nourish yourself from the tree of Da'at, of Tov and Ra, which simply means any wisdom that's not rooted in the Torah, which could be and definitely is the news. So when you hear the news on whatever side that you're hearing it from, you're mamish eating from the tree of Da'at of Tov Ra. And you wonder why after you hear the news, you feel despair. You feel confused. You don't know where to move because you're eating from the tree of death. And Rav Nachman says death is not just at the end of your life. Death is whenever you feel sad. That's called death. I know firsthand, there is no worse suffering than the pain of sadness, of despair, of depression. And the Zohar says, and Kabbalah explains, sadness, atzvut, is literally death. But the despair is not coming from what's happening. It's coming from the fact that lies are many, meaning when you attribute to many, it's a lie. But the truth is one. It doesn't just mean we're holding on to the truth and nobody else is. It means that everything is one. That's the truth. Rav Natan goes on, his main student, Rabbi Nachman's main student, he explains it further. He says, over the course of history, you're going to see different movements, different isms. Zionism, feminism, chauvinism, secularism, deism, and all other types of isms. You know, the people who created the Declaration of Independence, they were all deists. If anyone doesn't know what a deist is, it means that they all believe in God, but that God created the world and left it. He created it, and that was it. And now the rest is up to us. That's a lie. That's not true. And that's the source of all despair. And they're the ones who gave birth to the whole political system in America. So anytime you are investing your mind and your heart in the sheker of politics, you're not just going to be choosing wrong, you are going to experience despair because it's not real. Now, yes, there's elements that are real, because there has to be elements in anything that's real. But as long as it's not completely true, you experience tremendous emotional upheaval as a result. And the fault lies in only not realizing that there's only ever one choice in life: to choose from life or to choose from the opposite. And there is no life besides the Torah, because the Torah gave birth to reality, and it's constantly giving birth to reality. Rav Natan says, all of these isms, you notice, they all leave. Every single movement over history stays for a period of time, and then it goes. Not only that, as soon as it goes, a new one comes. This one, and that one, and this one, and that one. For instance, what is the whole point of feminism? That women are just like men. Just like men. Why would you want to be like us? Why would you want to be like us? It's great to be a woman. Why do you need to be like something else besides yourself? This is, by the way, the root of the problem of why everybody is so confused and so angry and so sad, because everybody's trying to be like everybody else. Why should you want to be like a man? Why should a man want to be like a woman? You're beautiful. We're beautiful. It's good. The fact that the Jews are all one doesn't mean we should all be acting the same. It means everybody's unique and special and beautiful. And within one collective whole, we create a unity. Unity means that you're connecting opposites. But when you make everybody the same, it's a lie. And you don't have to. You don't have to. The whole cause of despair comes from trying to be something that you're not. Be who you are. It's beautiful. Hashem made you perfect. Mamash, when you wake up in the morning, every woman says, thank you, Hashem, that you made me according to your ratzon, according to your will. You know what that means? That you made me perfect. Because whatever Hashem does is perfect. Why would you ever want to be something other than perfect? And over the course of thousands of years, we have all these isms. One leaves, another comes. One leaves, another comes. Why? Because they're not true. And the essence of truth is that it's always, Rabbi Nachman says. For something to be true, it has to always be true. And if it's not always true, it's not really true. So the fact that all of these isms are coming and going and coming and going and coming and going, that these political parties, they come and they go, and these countries, they come and they go, and these nations, they come and they go, it's because they're not true. And if they were true, they would never leave. Where's the proof? You're looking at it in the mirror, yourself. You're Jewish. You have been here since the beginning. And despite the fact that for thousands of years, people who were much bigger than us, much greater than us, much more on paper, ready to dispose of us. They're all gone and we're still here. Why is that? It's not because we control the government. It's not because we control Hollywood. It's because we're true. Because we are Jews. Judaism is true. And if it's true, it must always be. We're not going anywhere ever. Because the truth remains forever. If you want to know if something is a lie, if it's temporary, it's not true. And if something is forever, it's true. Many people get married, and then they get divorced. What's often the reason? Because they feel like, this isn't the person that I married. You know, this person is not the person that I thought it was going to be. And we're not going to be able to make this work. Let me try and find something else. So on paper, Hashem should have done that with us thousands of years ago. Every single day, the majority of Jewish people have no idea who Hashem is. They don't actively do whatever Hashem says is good for everyone. But Hashem never leaves us. Why? Because it's true. Because anything that's true lasts forever. And you are true. And you are real. And Rav Natan is saying that if you want the truth, find something that's always. Because anything that's temporary is not real. And all of these things are temporary. All of these things are temporary. And if they're temporary, they come from the tree that causes death. Because even death is temporary. Life is forever. Many people think you live and then you die, meaning life is temporary and death is forever. That's not true. Death is temporary. Life is forever. Eventually, death is going to be swallowed up, and we're not going to experience that anymore. And what does that mean in essence, besides physical death? No more sadness, no more despair, no more anger, because all of these things are called death according to the Torah, and they're not going to exist soon. So if you're sitting here and you're listening to the class and you're wondering to yourself, why do I constantly feel despair? Why do I constantly feel sadness? Why do I feel lack of joy? Why do I feel peace in my life? And the answer is because you're eating from the wrong tree. It is only the tree that gives you real da'at. And what is da'at again? That everything comes from Hashem. The good and what doesn't look good. It's all Hashem. All of it. You had a healthy child, Bezrat Hashem, a beautiful kid who follows you and goes in the way that you hope he would. And, okay, great, comes from Hashem. You have a kid who mamish doesn't listen to anything you say, and he's not going at all in the way that you had hoped for and intended. Also from Hashem. Everything is from Hashem. Someone asked how you get to the right tree. I'll tell you 1 second. Rav Nachman says if you merit this thing called da'at, that you realize, that you get to the recognition that everything is Hashem, everything, then you don't have to wait to Gan Eden to feel Gan Eden. You don't have to wait till the transcendent universe when everything that's true lasts and everything that's not vanishes. You can experience a taste of Gan Eden in this world. Rav Nachman says that explicitly. Meaning that even while you're in this physical world that to everyone else looks like a Gehenna, your internal emotional state, your psychological state, your state of being is one of Gan Eden. You see someone like Rav Shalom Arush, and you say to yourself, how is he always happy? How is he always happy? What, he doesn't have difficulties in his life? He doesn't have challenges in his life? He doesn't have debts? He doesn't have family issues. He has everything. We all do. But he knows everything is from Hashem. And Rav Nachman says, when you know that, not just intellectually, but emotionally, psychologically, that it's internalized in your heart, then you don't have to wait for Gan Eden. You feel it right now, meaning you're always happy. So Rav Nachman says, it's a mitzvah gedola to be happy all the time. It's not a nice thing to be happy all the time. It's a mitzvah gedola. It's a great mitzvah to be happy all the time. Why? Because if you're happy, it means that you're eating from the tree of life. And that's a mitzvah d'oraita. You have a mitzvah that you should be learning Torah. That's the tree of life. So if you're learning from the Torah, you must be happy. And if you're not happy, it's because that learning that you're doing is not the real thing. It's not with Emunah. Because even the Torah can be a spice of life or a spice of death. And therefore, everything depends on one thing. That is Emunah. Faith. What's the faith in? That everything is one. Everything comes from Hashem. And when you believe that, and then you learn Torah, then you're happy. When you believe that, and you're with your husband, no matter what happens, you're happy. When you believe that, and you're with your children, and they're not listening to you, afterwards, you don't lose your mind. You go back to Hashem and you say, Hashem, thank you for this good that I don't understand. But please, Hashem, I want to understand and to experience the good. I want to experience that this is good in my heart. I don't want to just believe it. I want to know it. Rav Nachman says you can do it. Why? Because Hashem wants you to. The Zohar says very clearly that the whole point of you being in this world is to know Hashem. What does it mean to know Him? It means to know that everything is Him. You're here in the class right now listening to this class. Hashem wanted you to. You're not. Hashem didn't want you to. You have to cut out because something happens in your family. Okay, Hashem wanted that. Everything is from Hashem. This is the cause of feeling life, to be alive. Because eventually when we get to Gan Eden, when we get to Olam Haba, that's the only reality that there's going to be. The Gemara has a question. Why is it at the end of Aleinu? We say this 3 times a day. Right? If you're a woman, you say the Amidah. We say that Hashem Echad U'Shemo Echad. Hashem is one, and His name is one. Bayomahu, on that day. On that day, Hashem will be one, and His name will be one. Meaning when Mashiach comes. He's not one now. The Gemara, Brachot, says He's not one now. No, He is. We just don't realize it. Meaning on that day, we're going to realize it's all Hashem. That's the difference between this world and the next world. There, we're going to realize it's all from Hashem, and here we don't. That's why we suffer. That's why we're sick. That's why we die. But if you know that everything comes from Hashem, and you believe that, and you experience that, the joy that comes from that, the life that comes from that, the peace that comes from that, the beauty of relationship that comes from that, you never die. Not in the next world and not in this world. Because Hashem only gives good. But Hashem also gives free will. He gives a choice. This is actually very explicit in the words themselves for truth and lie. The word truth, emet, is spelled Aleph Mem Taf. That is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. That is the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And that is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And we know, according to Kabbalah, that all of history is contained within the Hebrew letters. That Aleph is the beginning and Taf is the end. So the fact that Emet comes from the beginning, middle, and the end, the word itself is alluding to the fact, what is the essence of truth? That it's always. Like Hashem says, I do not change. Because if He did, He wouldn't be true. What about sheker? What about lie? The word sheker actually are letters that are all at the end of the alphabet. Which, by the way, is very connected to the fact that we're in the last generation and you are submerged in lies. And we all are. Shin Kuf Resh. It's not going from front to back, it's going from back to front. And it's all standing on one leg, whereas Emet, truth, all those letters stand on two legs. Sheker, every single one of them stands on one, and they're right next to each other. Meaning what? They are very, very enticing. And they are many. And they are screaming at you from all sides. But they're temporary, because they're not from the beginning until the end. The only thing that's real is Hashem. And the Zohar says that Hashem, Kuchabrichu, Uchachinte, Daraita, it's all one. What does that mean? Hashem, the Torah, and the souls of the Jewish people are all one. Meaning there is no difference between Hashem and His Torah. He is His Torah. So when you are learning Torah, like you're doing now, you are attaching your consciousness to reality. And we just said that the Jewish souls are also one. What does that mean? It means that your essence, your soul is God, is a piece of God. And it's real. And every single one of us needs to tap into that part of ourselves because it's the only true thing we have. And it's the thing that lasts forever. And it's the cause of joy and health and peace and beauty and good relationships and whatever else you're looking for. Because Rav Nachman says explicitly, sadness comes from lies and happiness comes from truth. And if at any moment you are experiencing sadness, I'm not talking about brokenheartedness from a person passing away that you loved. That's appropriate. And it's a mitzvah. But I'm talking about the majority of everything that we feel every single day. That's called sadness. And that's coming from a lie. Because if it was true, the response, the emotional response has to be happiness. And if you're not happy, it means that you are cogitating. You are thinking about lies. And let's say you're going to say to me, yeah, but how can I be thinking about a lie? This person has cancer, chas v'shalom. This person is very sick. Yes, they are. But why? Because Hashem wants them to be. And if Hashem wants that, it means it must be good. And the fact that we can't experience that right now is because we don't have da'at. We don't have this unitative knowledge, this consciousness that binds everything to Hashem, that realizes it's all one. And there's no difference between getting a gold medal and tripping and spraining your ankle. It's all equally good because it all comes from Hashem. What's a practical example that you can connect to? A birth. I give this example all the time, but it's just so poignant. You have a woman who she's 9 months pregnant. Imagine she never heard about pregnancy. Imagine she never saw a doctor before. Imagine she never connected to the reality that she's pregnant. What does she think? What would you think if for 9 months you were getting bigger and bigger? You were nauseous. You were throwing up.
Related to the last days of Passover.
Okay. Sorry.
Tonight and tomorrow,
you feel nausea. You feel sick. Your emotions are going up and down. Your stomach is getting big. You're so tired. What would you think? You think you're dying. And what are you actually doing? You're giving birth to life. What happens to a person who knows they're about to give birth to life, even though it's painful? They're happy, even in the pain. And what about a person who doesn't realize they're pregnant and is pregnant? There could be no worse emotional trauma, no worse internal discomfort. Why? Because they don't realize it's good. Because they don't know. We don't know. Now somebody asked, how do you know? How do you get to the point that you can know this? Not just intellectually. Okay, good. I know Milvado. I have it on my wall. And I learned it in a Torah lesson. But then when it comes to my relationships with my husbands or my parents or my kids or my boss or my employees, I don't feel that at all. I just learn it at night and it makes me feel good at night. And then I go back to my same crummy life. And the reason is because that knowledge is not da'at, because da'at needs to permeate your heart. Also in Aleinu, it says that you should know and you should take it to your heart that Hashem is above and below. There's nothing else besides him. It doesn't mean there's no other God besides him. I mean, there is nothing else besides him. And why does it say that you should know it and take it to your heart? Just say know it. Because it's not enough to know it. It needs to be in your heart. If your husband said, I love you, I love you, I love you, and chas v'shalom, he abuses you, so it's not enough to intellectually know that he loves you while he's hitting you. Because it means he doesn't love you. He needs to feel that love. You need to feel that love. Otherwise, it's not real. And women have a better sense for this than anybody, because Hashem gave you an extra dose of Bina. And with that extra dose of Bina, you're able to quickly sniff out what's real and what's not real in a way that even men can do. Okay, so you say you love me, but you don't act like you love me. It's not enough to know it. You need to feel it. This is not emotional pop psychology. This is a spiritual reality. And Chassidut explains, what is it? Rav Nachman says, what is it that takes that knowledge from the head and brings it to your heart? Emunah. Where's the proof for this? When men wrap tefillin, when they wrap it on their finger, they say, Verastich li le'olam. Hashem, I'm married to you forever. Again, that means it's true because it's forever. Verastich li b'tzedek u'mishpat u'v'chesed u'rachamim. I'm marrying myself to you with truth and with compassion, with empathy and with love. Verastich li be'emunah v'yeda'at et Hashem. Be'emunah v'yeda'at et Hashem. And I'm marrying you that be'emunah, with emunah v'yeda'at, I'm going to know that everything comes from you. So the key to knowing that everything comes from Hashem is to believe that everything comes from Hashem. And how does a person believe that everything comes from Hashem? Two things. One, he talks to Hashem. Rav Nachman says, emunah is talking. The more you talk to Hashem, the more you believe in Hashem. And the more you believe in Hashem, the more you're going to know Hashem. The reason why these rabbis who are drinking the wisdom of Rabbi Nachman, and you see them, they don't just believe in Hashem in their mind. They don't just know Hashem in their mind. They're living with joy. They're living with peace. They have shalom bayit in their home. They have beautiful families. They feel connected to reality. Why? Because they talk to Hashem every single day for at least an hour a day. And the more you talk to Hashem, the more you're going to believe in him. And the more you're going to believe in him, the more you're going to know him. So now what stops us from doing that? And the answer is that we're eating from the wrong tree. We're eating from the tree of Da'at Tov Ra. That means anything which is not teaching you that everything comes from Hashem, it means it's coming from the tree that's causing you to be confused. It's making you think that there's many things going on instead of one. And when that happens, you don't turn to Hashem. What happens when a person, chas v'shalom, he gets sick? What's the first thing you do? You go to a doctor. What does Rabbi Nachman say? Don't do that. Because Hashem is the cause of your illness. Imagine the doctor gave you something into your body and it caused you to be sick. Would you then go to your mother to figure out why? No, doesn't make any sense. So why are we doing that? Not just with medicine, with everything. Why am I taking my inner life force and then bringing it out to all of these different places and depending on them when they're not the cause of my reality? And the answer is because society has taught us that there's many. And the Torah says this is mamish a lie. There's only one. Everything is from Hashem. So Rabbi Nachman says, stay as far away from secular wisdom as possible. And I know this isn't popular to say. I know that this isn't status quo. I know this isn't politically correct. And I know that most major organizations wouldn't have me on their websites talking about it. But I'm telling you that the whole difference in my life and the life of people who are learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings and having their life literally transform from death to joy, from anger to peace, from confusion to clarity, is because Rabbi Nachman says, don't eat from the tree of death. Don't partake of secular wisdom because you don't realize it's killing you. And even if you think that it's innocent, okay, I'm just looking up this news article. Okay, I'm just looking up this Facebook thing. Okay, I'm just looking at this Instagram thing someone sent me. And you think, this isn't affecting me. It is. Because it's making you feel that everything is not from Hashem, whether that's conscious or that's subconscious. And please forgive me, even if you're listening to rabbis, and those rabbis are not telling you everything comes from Hashem, it's also causing your sadness. It's also causing your despair. Because the truth is one. Bayomahu yeh Hashem echad u'shemo echad. On that day, Hashem is going to be one and His name is going to be one. Hashem always represents Hashem's empathy, His compassion, His unlimited love, His unlimited resources for connection and for understanding. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Shemo, His name represents His quality of din. What you see in the world. Famines and diseases and all types of things that seem on paper to be horrible and terrible. And on that day when Mashiach comes, you're going to see it's all one thing. It's all coming from the same place. So if Nachman says you want to feel like that now, you want to know now what they're only going to know then, so stop eating from the tree of Da'at of Tov Hara. Stop eating from secular wisdom because it's killing you. And I know because I'm a Baal Tshuva. And I knew because I was completely immersed in all of this. And that even once you become a religious Jew, and the majority of religious Jews are busy with it as well. And everyone each to their own. But there comes to a point in life, definitely for me, when you have to ask yourself, do I want to be sad anymore? Do I want to be angry anymore? Do I want to be confused anymore? Do I want to be 99% Eino Milvado, it's awesome, everything's from Hashem, and go back to our same disturbed lives? Or do I want to do something that's not considered by society to be normal and to use my free will to choose to connect to truth only? And eventually, if you are so connected to truth, then you're obligated to go back into the world of lies and lift it up. But we are not holding in that place. We are completely confused. We're in a generation that is completely disconnected from the inner reality of life that's causing everything that's taking place. That's the reason why depression rates have never been higher and anxiety rates have never been higher. that psychiatric medications have never been administered more and more. And I'm not anti anything. I went to school for psychology. I'm a licensed social worker. And I was a therapist in a substance abuse clinic. You know, everybody at times in their life needs to do what they need to do. And wherever you're holding, that could be it. But I don't think anybody listening to this class is satisfied with that. I don't think anybody who's hearing this right now, or anybody who can be honest in their heart, says, I want to be dependent on anything for my happiness. And the Torah says, and the Tzaddikim teach, and Rabbi Nachman says, and Hashem says, I took you out of Mitzrayim. You're not in Egypt anymore. You're not a slave anymore. You don't have to live like that. You can be happy now. You can always be happy. What's an example of secular wisdom? Political parties. If you're listening to news channels on Fox or CNN or NBC, I guarantee you the majority of what they're saying, even if they believe in the heart of hearts that it's the realest thing that there is, it's not, because it's not based on Torah. So it's not true. So when you watch news and you're imbibing and drinking their wisdom, their guidance, their advice, how we should respond to things, you're mamish eating from the tree of death. That's the reason why everybody in their home right now is sitting home, scared out of their minds, not sure what's going to be, and going into complete despair. Because everybody is eating from the tree of death. It's a consciousness. Your only free will is to choose your consciousness. Do I want to choose to eat from the tree of life and experience happiness and inner peace and harmony and good relationships and feeling close to Hashem? Or do I want to feel what I felt my whole life and don't know why I can't stop? Rabbi Nachman says, you want to know how you stop? 2 things. Talk to Hashem every single day. And the more you talk to him, the more you're going to believe in him. And the more you believe in him, the more you're going to realize it's all him. And in order for you to do that and to feel the effects of that, the inner effects, the psychological effects, the emotional effects, the spiritual effects, you need to remove everything that's not that. And the proof is in the pudding, okay? You don't have to tell me, well, there are rabbis that they learn this and they say this. Okay, good, kol kavod. If you want to do a science experiment, try not to learn, and by learn, it doesn't just mean that I'm sitting down and learning a book. When you experience information, that's called wisdom. Or that's called knowledge, let's say. It's all knowledge. I remember the first time I was reading Rabbi Nachman, he was saying that there's no way to experience true inner peace unless you don't listen or learn secular wisdom. I was like, come on, what are you talking about? What, I shouldn't be learning science and all of these things? What do you mean? They're good. Rabbis learn science and they connect, and it's true. It's all true. But I was still sad. And I kept coming back and reading over and over again. And Rabbi Nachman's insistent, please, I beg of you, don't learn secular wisdom. It's mamish killing you. And I said, you know what, that's it. Let me do a science experiment. For 1 week, I'm not going to look at any news. I'm not going to go on Facebook. I'm not going to look at links that people send me for 1 week. Not going to kill me. I'm going to be here in a week, Bezrat Hashem. Let me see how I feel. I mamish felt that 1 week so close to Hashem that I was tapped into reality. And when you realize that, and you go back and you look at how many people, all they're doing all day is eating from the tree, which is the cause of all sadness and anxiety and confusion, and their whole lives are being guided by it, it is frightening. Rabbi Nachman wasn't scared of anything. Rabbi Nachman was frightened of one thing: false knowledge, false leaders, because it's the cause of all destruction. Not Gog Magog, not your own inner world. Sadness, that's called death. Anger, that's called death. Confusion, that's called death. I'm only speaking to you about this right now so passionately because I was dead for most of my life. And the majority of people who hear what I'm saying, if you connect with anything that I talk about, try a science experiment. Try for 1 week not to learn or to read anything that's not coming from truth. It's not coming from the Torah. Just see how you feel. See if you feel more connected to Hashem. See if when you talk to Hashem, you feel that He's actually listening to you. See how He answers you. Because your only choice in life is this: do I choose the truth or do I choose a lie? And even if you think it's innocent, it may well be, but that innocence doesn't change the way that it's affecting you. The truth is joy. If you're not feeling happy because of what you're saying, it means it's not real. And I'm not talking about temporary happiness. I'm not talking about you see like a quick thing and it makes you laugh. Okay, great. That's not called life according to the Torah. That's not called happiness according to the Torah. If you need something to make you happy, it means it's not true. How many of the people who are listening to the class are depending on someone to make them happy? A spouse, a child, a parent, a family member, society. You don't need anybody to make you happy. You could just be happy. Why do we feel we need something else to make us happy? Because we've learned a lie. That we need anything besides Hashem. Or that anything besides Hashem can actually make a person happy. It can't. Any questions? And don't be afraid to ask. You know, I know I'm speaking about a topic that is difficult, considering the majority of us are doing these things and struggling with these things. But I'm just trying to. I'm really trying to help. You don't know. In my Hibboda, dude, like today, I was crying. Just crying. How many people are suffering only because they're listening to lies? Good people, beautiful people, mamish beautiful people that are busy all day listening to lies. And the result is the worst, worst, worst. Everything. The worst everything. According to halakha, a Jewish person in our generation who doesn't realize that everything is from Hashem, that doesn't realize the Torah is true, he's considered halachically like he was kidnapped. As a child, and they're not held responsible for anything. So, okay, so people go, okay, great. So that means like, you know, when they come over, I can give them a little mavushal wine. What it means is that the majority of people, their consciousness is in exile. And if you see that your family is angry and sad and in despair, it's because there are lies that are permeating that space. And the fact that it's happening to good people all across the world and every Jew is good, it's so good, and good in a way you can't possibly imagine, that none of us can imagine, that there's a piece of Hashem in every one of us. Why are we not tapped in there? Because you need to eat from the tree of life. It's the only thing that reveals it. There's some questions on the bottom. Let me see if I can try and answer. What if it's for a profession, learning secular studies? So your profession is different. Rabbi Nachman was a very big fan of people learning a trade and supporting themselves. However, you should know that whatever you're learning for your trade, also, if it's not rooted in the Torah, it's not true, at least not completely. And if it's not completely true, in essence, it's not true. Like, for instance, I went to school for psychology. I went to school for social work, right? So I learned all about Freud and his theories about the unconscious, the subconscious. And he was right. There is a subconscious. It's called Chokhmah. However, everything else he said was wrong. So, it's one thing to try and use something for everything is secular. Everything that's not coming from the Torah is secular. Medical knowledge is also secular. Doctors say if you have this, you live. If you don't, they die. That's not true. My cousin was in a coma. The doctors thought he was going to die. They didn't tell my uncle, they didn't tell my cousin's family. I was told that he was in the hospital. He was in a coma. I saw him. I saw everybody in the room was in despair. And I went in there and I said, can I pray next to him? I prayed. I said, Hashem, this person doesn't even know you. This person's 40 years old. He's Jewish. He doesn't even know you exist. He's never heard of the Torah in his life. How are you going to take a person away from this world? He only comes down to this world to know you. He doesn't know you. Hashem, I don't believe that you would ever bring a person here to come to know you and never have a chance, because that would be cruel, and you're not cruel. And everything you do is for the best. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I said, Hashem, I'm not leaving here until he gets up from the bed. And the machines in the room start going off. And all the lines are going. And I don't know what's happening. And I see all the doctors flying in. And I see all the nurses coming in. And I see that the whole place is chaos. I don't know what's happening. And I can see the family's confused. And as I'm leaving, because I see, I don't even know if I should be here, I told the family, listen to me very carefully. I know you may or may not believe in Hashem. I know that you may or may not believe that your son, your boyfriend, your brother is going to get up. I said, I promise you right now, I'm telling you right now, if you believe and you pray to Hashem that he should awaken, that he should live, and you believe that, not just with your mind, but with your whole heart, I promise you he's going to walk out of here. And I left the room. And I continued to go to the Birkat Cholim room and to pray for him for half an hour, an hour and a half, for 2 hours, for 2 hours and a half, for 3 hours. And I finally had to go. I had to go. I'm walking out of the hospital. And I get a call from my aunt. David, thank you so much. I said, for what? He said, your cousin's up. He's speaking to the doctors. He's responding. He is completely fine now. The majority of people go into comas have brain damage and become vegetables. They're doing science experiments. They're doing research to find out how he could have survived that coma, because the majority of people don't, and not like him. They have him in the Boston Journal, in some medical journal. He attends dinner for survivors of comas, miraculous survivors, once a year. The doctors admitted afterwards they didn't think he was going to make it. And how did they treat him medically? That way. Doctors do not determine who lives and dies. Medicine does not determine who lives and dies. Hashem does. If you're in the medical profession, okay, so learn what you need to learn. Do your best to be competent and responsible in your job. But don't go home and think that it's true. And don't pray to Hashem thinking that this is the reality, because it's not. Because you know what's going to happen in 5 years from now? They're going to know something different in medicine. And you know what that means? It means that whatever they're saying now is not true. And what about 10 years from now? They're going to find out something new. And it's going to change what we thought about 5 years from then. And then you know what that means? It means it's not true. You do your best. You go into the medical field. So you do your best to learn. You do the best you can at your job. But know that when you leave your job and when you're in your off time and you really want to help your patients or your clients, then you should talk to Hashem every single day and ask Hashem for their help, because that's what's going to help them. What do you do if you have, yeah, sorry, someone's saying, for example, learning medicine, I know everything I'm learning is from Hashem because he created the human body and all the medications, and the only reason it allows it to work is because of Hashem. Is that okay? Yeah, that's good. It's good if you understand that Hashem created the medicine and he's the one who's giving it. But understand also that if Hashem doesn't want that medication to work, it's not going to work, even if it worked for everybody else. I know firsthand. I took every single psychiatric medication under the sun for depression. Nothing worked. I got TMS. Little shock waves to the head that try to reset your mind, because I was in such despair. And even though it has very high success rates, it didn't work for me. I got electric shock therapy, where anybody who gets that and has depression has an 80% success rate, 8 out of 10 people. The majority of people, not me. What's the reason? Because Hashem didn't want me to heal from that. That's the reason. And if he wanted to, he would have. But if he did, I wouldn't have Emunah. And if I didn't have Emunah, I wouldn't be teaching you. Can I tell you something amazing? I want to tell you something amazing right now. I lost years worth of memory from doing those ECT treatments. I was here in Queens where I live. I had students who came up to me. This is in the beginning when I first started teaching. I wasn't as connected to things that I'm talking to you about now as I was then. And I didn't remember anything from the past couple of years. I had people come up to me, hey, David, how's it going? Thank you so much. I decided to take your advice. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I didn't even know who they were. It was so sad. But I want to tell you something incredible. For those years that I was learning Torah, even after I lost my memory of everything else, I remember everything I learned. How is that possible? How could I remember all the Torah that I learned in those years that all my memory went away? Because forgetfulness is only a part of this world, and it's a lie. It's not forever. But the Torah is true, and anything that's true always exists. You don't know how many people that I've heard, mamish have dementia or amnesia, and they forgot everything, including their family members. And they still remember all the Torah that they learned. Why? Because it's true. If you want to be happy, if you want to be connected to life, you need to learn the truth. The truth is, it's all Hashem. How do you connect to that? By talking to Hashem. How do you disconnect from that? By learning things that don't teach you that, even amongst rabbis. The only way that I healed was to stop listening to anything, even spirituality, that didn't teach me that mamish, everything is from Hashem. Everything. I chose because it's my only choice. I said to myself, you know what, when I listen to this and this, I feel despair. I feel sad. Rav Nachman says, not true then. So let me take my free will and let me choose life, because I can't do this anymore. I have a wife and I have kids. I don't want to just survive. I want to live. And I stopped listening to anything that didn't tell me that everything was Hashem. And I healed. And every day Hashem is healing me more and more. Doesn't mean it's always easy. Doesn't mean I don't have rough times or difficult days. I do. But Hashem is healing me because I'm coming closer and closer and closer, not just to the bumper sticker of Einol Mavado, but it's being implanted into my heart. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm not any different than anybody listening to this class. I'm probably worse. But I talk to Hashem every single day, at least for an hour a day, no matter how I feel, whether I'm crying or whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad or whether I am having clarity in my life. I don't give up on that talking to Hashem, because that talking to Hashem is what creates Amunah. And Amunah is the key to knowing. And on top of that, I don't read anything that's not true. People send me videos of stuff, I won't look at it, because it's not true. And even though it might just be funny, or it might just be interesting, it's very innocent. Okay, great. That's fine. But I will not allow that innocence to make my consciousness go into exile and not be able to help everyone around me. It's not worth it. It's not worth it for my family. It's not worth it for myself. I'm not going to get into what rabbis are good and what rabbis are not good. So whoever asked me, I appreciate the honesty and the question. I'll just tell you like this. When you come away from learning this person's wisdom, do you feel empowered? Do you feel hope? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel happy? Do you feel faith? Do you feel that there's hope here? Do you feel closer to Hashem? Do you want to get closer to Hashem? If the answer is yes to all those things, listen to those things. If you do not feel that, do not listen to those things. I'm not telling you as a rabbi, I'm telling you as a friend, telling you as a brother. Nobody wants to hear this because it goes completely contradictory to modern society, and I am empathetic to that. I understand that. But it doesn't change the Metziut, it doesn't change the reality. That Rabbi Nachman says that the cause of all sadness in the world is secular wisdom. Because Rabbi Nachman says that sadness only comes from lies. And if you're sad, it means you are invested in a lie. What is that lie? That things are not only coming from Hashem. The only thing that I can attest to in my life that I know makes me realize and is constantly focusing me and amplifying for me and magnifying for me the reality of Hashem's oneness is the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, is the Torah of Chassidut, and specifically the Torah of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. That's for me. Anybody else feels that when they listen to these classes, my best suggestion is immerse yourself as much as you can in Rabbi Nachman's Torah and following his advice, because the proof is in the pudding. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. Try it. Science experiment, right? We all do different challenges. Okay, so try it. If you want to do it, we do a 1-week trial. And anyone wants to do it with me, see how we feel. Worst comes to worst. You didn't feel any difference. Okay, so you go back to watching the news. You go back to learning whatever you're learning, reading whatever you're reading, and feeling confused and feeling sad and feeling angry. What about the negative things in our life? Is that from Hashem? It still makes us sad or unhappy. For example, illness. Illness does not make you sad. The fact that you think that it's bad for you makes you sad. And no, this is hard to understand. And we're not going to completely understand this until Mashiach comes. But illness is not making you sad. It is not knowing that it's good for you that's making you sad. It doesn't mean that it's pleasant to be sick. It's not pleasant to be sick. It's painful. But Rabbi Nachman says, if you avoid a little bit of pain, you feel a lot of pain. This world is not easy. This world is difficult. This world is temporary. This world is to bring you to a place of emunah shleima, complete emunah, complete belief and consciousness that everything comes from Hashem. And your choice is to choose life. Hashem's not going to choose it for you because he respects you too much. And he wants you to reap the reward of choosing life. And it's not easy. And it's actually harder now than it's ever been. You are barraged by multimedia. You are barraged by every type of wisdom under the sun. Everything. Everything.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So like I've heard before, like the Torah wants us also to engage, like we're brought into this world in a physical body, so we're supposed to like engage with the physical world.
100%.
So how do, like, I've always been a big fan of like trying to maintain balance. So
Sure.
how can we take this advice where like we don't listen to the news, but isn't that kind of like we're isolating ourselves from the physical world? How are we then engaging with the physical world and trying to elevate the physical into spiritual?
Good question. Listen to the answer because it's very important. Your ability to go into the physical world and to lift it up, which is the goal of the Torah, only happens when you first disconnect yourself from lies. Hashem said, don't eat from this tree. But then we know that the rabbis explained that on Shabbat, he was going to be able to eat from the tree of life and also that tree. And it would be good for him. What's the reason that Noah had to go on an ark and had to separate himself from the world before he came back and repopulated it? Meaning he gave birth to a new reality. He uplifted the whole physical world. He had to first go on a boat. Why did Hashem tell Abraham, you have to leave behind your home, the place you grew up, what you learned, and go to the place I'm going to show you? How come Hashem just didn't show him where he was? Because it was impossible for him to experience that everything was from Hashem as long as he was experiencing and learning and investing in lies. It is very good, and it is the mandate of the Torah to lift up this physical world. However, your ability to do that successfully and healthily and with joy and with life force is the degree to which you are firmly connected to the reality of life, that everything is from Hashem. So the balance comes by you first being balanced, meaning connected to truth. When you're connected to truth, then you can go back and help everybody. Anybody who's listening, any Baal Tshuva knows that when they come and they realize, oh wow, Hashem exists, the Torah is real, okay, great, now let me go tell my family. And that doesn't work. It blows up tremendously. How come I can't lift it up for them? Because it's not real for you yet. It's not in your heart. It's just in your mind. The way to help the world is that you should become what you know, that it is mamish inside of you. And the Torah is teaching you shouldn't just have relationships, you should have beautiful relationships. You shouldn't just be connected to the physical world, you should lift it up. But the way that you do that means that you first have to separate from things that are not true. And when you are completely connected to that reality, then you can go back into your life and lift it all up. To lift the whole thing up. Otherwise, it's a very, very dangerous, vulnerable thing. And I also want balance. You know, we all want balance. We all want to take the middle road. The Torah says to. However, your ability to do that is dependent on your level of emunah. And if your emunah is not rock solid, then when you go back in the physical world and you try and connect to everything in it, you fall and they fall, and you don't help anybody. So, again, this is a difficult thing to hear. And if you're not, if you don't resonate with me, it's cool, it's all good. I don't take any offense. I have no agenda. I'm not getting paid enough to have an agenda or anything. I left my whole job behind. I left my whole life behind to teach this to the world because it's the only thing that's true. And it's the only thing that's going to bring peace. My whole life, I wanted peace. You ask my parents. I wrote a letter to my parents when I went to college, when I went to social work school. And they didn't understand why I was taking such a low-paying profession. I said, you need to know, even though you don't understand, despite the fact I could have went for a much higher paying job, my goal in my life is to bring peace to the world. And I thought that would be if I go there and I learned psychology, I learned social work, and then I realized Hashem existed. And the Torah says very clearly what creates peace in the world. Truth. To the degree that you have truth in your life, to that degree you have peace. And I said to myself, if I really want peace in the world, so then I have to teach truth. And if I'm going to teach truth, I have to believe in the truth. And if I'm going to believe in the truth, I have to listen to Rabbi Nachman. Because he teaches Emunah. He teaches Emunah. Mamish teaches Emunah. I'm not saying nobody else does. I just didn't find anybody who teaches it like this. And anybody who has invested in exploring this further and trying to bring it into their life, nobody's suffering as a result. Your family is happier. Your relationships are better. You're more connected to the truth. And through that, you can be more connected to everything around you. But if you connect initially without being rooted in that truth, then you fall and everything else falls. Did that answer your question?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, Rabbi. I have
Go
one.
ahead.
Thank you so much for your time again. In the beginning, you were talking about how, sometimes your husband, your kids, always you have tension with them, right?
Yeah.
My husband and I are not on the same Judaism level. And I get it. He's not ready for it. My kids are in high school. I finally found a Jewish school would accept them because the level they're at in the Jewish school, my kids are so behind.
Right.
I got them all filled up. Everything was supposed to start this year in August. Somehow my husband just decided he didn't want them to go. One email was sent to the school and they don't want to accept my kids to school. They're like, unless you and your husband on the same page, we don't want no drama. Since I've been watching your lectures, and I thank you so much for your time. I've spoken to Hashem every morning. I wake up at 6 a.m, crying my eyes out. So what I want to ask you, is this something that Hashem wants to happen? Do I fight my husband for it? I've already paid half of the tuition, which today the email said that they won't, a non-refundable. And I don't know what to do.
One thing for sure, whatever happens is what Hashem wants. Even if it doesn't seem like it's what Hashem wants. And the way you know is if it's happening. That doesn't mean you don't pray for a change. But that's what you do. You pray for a change. You pray for a change. And it doesn't mean you're not already praying. But you keep praying. Every day you keep praying. I've prayed for 7 years that my dad should put on tefillin one time. For 7 straight years since I became Baal Tshuva, I prayed that one time my dad should put on tefillin every day. Yesterday he put on tefillin for the first time. Rav Nachman says every prayer that's real, that's genuine, if you don't give up on it, it will eventually get answered. It may not happen immediately. It may take time. But the main thing, really, I'm telling you, the main thing is while you're fighting for your family and your truth, invest in yourself. Because when your kids see that you're happy and your husband sees that you're happy, they're going to want to know, why are you so happy? When they see that you have peace in your life and they don't, they're going to want to know, why do you have such peace in your life? People need to experience God, not to hear about it. So my best advice for you, and by the way, you're not alone. I tell you guys this all the time. The majority of Bali Tshuva, their husband and wife, they are not on the same page, often not at all. And that's very difficult. But if you are praying to Hashem every single day from your heart that your kid should be in this school, and still they're not, it is because Hashem is not allowing them to be in that school. And you did your part. It doesn't mean you stop praying for it. But I suggest to you, like I suggest to all my students, you cannot help anybody until you first help yourself. You just can't. I've tried. My whole life I've tried to help everybody else besides myself. And in the end, it doesn't work. Because you can't give anything you don't have. So my advice to you is, while you pray for your kids to be in this school, and I'm going to pray for you also, and I am praying for you, don't get into despair. It's not real. Despair is not real. Hashem didn't do it yet for you. Okay, not yet. Okay, but what about high school? It's going to start and I lost the money. That's on Hashem. Rabbi Nachman used to say to Hashem all the time, I am doing what you want me to do. The rest is on you. That's what he would say. I prepared for Shabbat the best that I can. On Shabbat, I'm not going to be worried about doing the right thing all the time. I did my best to prepare for it. That's it. Shabbat's here. I'm going to be happy. And I hope you let me do what you want me to do. So I'm telling you from a place as close to my heart as possible, and understanding what you're saying more than you can possibly imagine. You need to connect to Hashem yourself. And that means that you need to have Amunah. Amunah means no despair. Don't despair. Everything is from Hashem, even when it looks like it's not. And that's what Mashiach is going to teach us. It's all from Hashem. That doesn't mean stop praying. Don't stop praying. But when you're done praying, be happy. This is a very, very important piece of practical advice. For 1 hour a day, when you talk to Hashem, let it all out. Everything. Hashem, please help me. I need you. You want this. I want this. So help me. Because on paper, this isn't going to happen. But I believe in you. And pour your heart out. But after that hour is over, the rest of the day, be happy. And know that whatever takes place is whatever Hashem wants. Brokenhearted, that 1 hour. But the rest of the day, you have to be happy. Because it's very easy to get connected in what's called the Yetzer Hara that's clothed in a mitzvah. That you think what you're doing is a mitzvah, but it's really the nachas, it's really the Yetzer Hara who's trying to use your own good intentions against you. So the basic litmus test is, am I sad? If I'm sad during the day, it means I've invested at some level in a lie. What's that lie? That this is not what Hashem wants. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be happening. Does that mean Hashem doesn't want you to pray? No, He wants you to pray to change it. That's often why He makes it not like it looks like He wants. But when the prayer is over, when you are not in the hibodedut, then you need to be happy and know that everything is from Him. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much. Yes, it does. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, and don't worry about anything. Don't give up on anything, and just rely on Hashem. And when you are not talking to Him, do whatever you can to be happy.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, guys. Tomorrow night, there's a big event from the Breslov Research Institute. They're having a once a year celebration that they do. And they bring a lot of the big rabbis of Breslov in. A lot of you have probably heard of Gedalia Fenster. Other very, very powerful, empowering speakers. I don't work for them. They don't pay me. So, I'm just telling you this is what it is. So tomorrow night, me and all my students, both male and hopefully female, are going to be watching and tuning in to try to get new encouragement, to try to get inspiration to move forward in this life-giving wisdom, and to hear from people who have been through it and have done it, and to find out, how do I continue and move on in this way, because it's the key to all good. So that's the reason why we moved the class to today. If anybody wants to know where you go to get this, email tzionbreslovproject@gmail.com. We'll send you the flyer. And if you want to join us and to watch on Zoom, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very happy. It's going to be very encouraging. And then next week we'll have the class, Bezrat Hashem, is scheduled usual Wednesday night for women. And then the next class for women will be for men and women on Sunday night. Bezrat Hashem is Sunday night. So everybody have a great night. And thank you for listening to me. And I hope that you resonate at some place in your heart with what I'm trying to give over to you. Because I promise you, I have no agenda. I have nothing to gain from teaching these things. It's certainly not from money. And it's certainly not from anything else that I could possibly have. I gave up everything in my life to try and make peace in this world by teaching truth. So if you feel truth in this, then keep searching in this place. Don't leave this place yet. Don't bounce off this place. Don't move from this place, no matter what's going on in your life. Be strong. Be resilient, like all Jewish women are. And just surge forward in this place. And I promise you, if you don't give up on Rabbeinu, if you don't give up on Rabbi Nachman's wisdom, if you don't give up on Hashem, if you don't give up on the Torah, and you don't give up on yourself, you will win. You will win, and the whole world will see you for who you are in the end. Everybody have a great night.